Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service, and today I'm going to be presenting the Venus Ingress into Libra, which actually occurs on August 29th at 9:30 in the morning. Before I start with the chart, and there's a couple different aspects of the project I want to look at today, I do want to start off by saying that there's recently been a discussion in, I believe it was a Uranian class recently, about an ingress. And I want to just cover it here for just a moment. I know I've said this before, but I want to say it again. An ingress is the first time that a planet or trans-Neptunian or asteroid crosses into the next sign. That means, and I'll use Pluto as an example. Pluto has been in and out of Aquarius a couple times already. I did my video back in like November or December of 23, I believe. And so you're probably saying, well, it doesn't really go in until January. That was actually somebody's comment, where it stays. Ingress isn't about when it goes in there and finally stays. It's when it goes in there, period. Doesn't have to go very far in. I think in December it only went in for 30 minutes. Like it only went into Pluto 30 minutes. Now, 30 minutes of Pluto is, time-wise, days. Okay, I think it was like 6 weeks or something. But the reality is that then it left and it went back into Capricorn and then it came back to Aquarius. And now it's going to go back again in November, and then it comes back in January, finally. Planets tend to retrograde, so they can run over a spot several times. So with that said, I wanted to reiterate that ingresses are about the first time that it crosses into the sign. I believe that the first retrograde of Venus is not happening for like 6 months. Okay, and it would be pretty deeply in Aries, so I'm not so sure it'll retrograde out of the sign of, I'm sorry, I said Aries, it's Libra, the opposite. It was an Aries point. But it will go into and stay there, I believe, as of the 29th. Though I didn't follow the retrograde all the way to the end. But I'm pretty sure that it goes pretty far into the next sign before the retrograde actually happens, which will be about 6 months. So I'm guessing, what, February of next year, March of next year. Anyway, I wanted to start off, I have the Uranian chart up, and I do want to talk about the Uranian chart for the simple reason that, and that you can tell that I've been playing, that here we have Venus right on the Libra, which is the Aries point. Now, if I put that on, just to kind of give you perspective, if I put it on a 90-degree dial, you can see it on the Aries point. Like, oh yeah, there it is, right there. So the whole idea of this Aries point Venus, okay, on a dial would be at the top, but in a 360 dial, it would be off to the side because it's actually at the equinox. So I just wanted to bring that up. But while I'm here in the 90, there are two outstanding midpoints that are created by this Venus. One is that Zeus sun, and Zeus is like seeds, beginnings, excitement, new ideas, but it's also a controlled excitement so that it can last the duration. Poseidon is there, and with Poseidon, it can be a very highly spiritualized energy with that Venus. It can also be propaganda aimed at money, and it could be the fact that people are really excited about something, and again, I'm doing Washington, D.C., and it could be just like money coming in, we're so excited. There is an optimistic attitude with this ingress, with the ascendant to Jupiter. I think that I would say to you personally, yeah, we can sort of see what's going on politically, but let's look at this individually as somebody's life. Well, this is talking about expansion and optimism. The problem is you don't want to be too expanded. Excuse me, we don't need the earplugs. And so you don't want to overextend yourself, because if you overextend yourself, then you're more likely to cause yourself some problems, okay? Now, because this is one of the forms of Uranian, one of the things I do want to point out to you is not just that we see that Poseidon there, but look at any, like we have the ascendant and we have Jupiter, look where the dots are, okay? Chiron is not far from a dot, okay? I like that Pluto is right in the trine of it, or what we would refer to possibly as a golden triangle, okay, because Pluto, being at the early part of Aquarius, is in a perfect trine with that Libra Venus. And with that said, could this be the beginning of some major transformations? Not again politically, although I believe that it is. I think for us as individual people can also benefit from this energy. Okay, so I just briefly, I mean, I'll come back to this, looking at this chart. One of the reasons why is because one of the things I would do, you know, as I'm playing with the chart, and I did do this, is take that Venus and that Neptune, which is very, very close, and see what they pull in. Well, of course, they pull in the sun. They also pull in a little bit of that Chiron. And yes, Chiron is a wounded healer, and it could be about somebody who's wounded and carrying on, and we already know who that is. But what I'm referring to, again, I want to go back to individual charts. I want to talk about me, okay? You, all right? And one of the things I'm going to tell you is that some of our positivity, and we do have to be very careful of being schnookered, but it also comes from being different, looking for the alternatives. Somebody pointed out, you know, Chiron is also about the deceptions financially of someone who didn't think they had to follow the rules. I don't even like getting into that too much. I think that that's just, again, a matter of public record. We know who thinks they don't have to follow the rules. And, you know, as somebody actually questioned me about why I am so partial. First of all, I want it to be known, and I know I've said this before, that I've been a lifelong Democrat. I come from a Union family. We were Northern Democrats from the point that they emigrated. Okay, so I'm going back a couple of generations, and so I am going to be partial. And I've also studied politics for about as long as I've studied astrology. I'm just not a political analyst, and I'm not a political animal, so to speak. But it is obvious that there is someone who is a sun who doesn't really feel they have to follow the rules. And I can tell you that there's been a lot of financial nefarious actions, for lack of a better way to put it, okay? You can't take that out of the equation. These were choices that this particular person made. That's his choice. We all have free will. He had a great chart, though. I'm not saying that I'm doing, say, her chart over his chart. Yes, I'm a Democrat, but he has a great chart. One of the things that's so upsetting about his chart is how it's misused. Instead of Mars for action, he uses Mars for whining, aggression, citing riots or insurrections. So I think that, you know, when we look at charts, and this is our own chart, we don't have a whole lot of free will, so I don't want to go out there on that limb and say, oh, you can do whatever you want. No, you can't. It's going to be limited within the chart itself. That's why the person I'm talking about did so well in life, because there was a good chart to work with. It doesn't mean that good decisions were made. As people, we have to make these decisions. When we see Neptune involved in something, it comes to us as to whether or not we're going to use this to its highest order, which is to be compassionate and to be somebody who is empathetic, intuitive, and who puts spirit over material. I know that's really hard to imagine, especially with that Neptune Venus aspecting the sun the way that it does. But it's up to us to love our neighbors, to love our friends, which is Venus, to expect that money, okay, it doesn't have to be about that. It can be about highest forms of love, okay? So I like to talk about astrology from all angles, and I am going to also do a little bit of a, what do I want to call that? Just a kind of little statement right here, which is to say that, particularly coming from Uranian, which I've really been doing a lot since the early 90s, I got to tell you, that's some really negative astrology sometimes. And it's not negative, okay? I think I did it with Kamala Harris's chart on the last video that I did when I was talking Uranian. I really, really feel that I'm trying to think, it's like Leo Allen and even a little bit Dane Rudhyar. These were astrologers that really tried to open up our concepts of how we view it. Jupiter is not always good, people. Anything that's overdone is not good. Balance needs to be applied to everything. Okay, Venus is not always positive. Sometimes it's quite selfish, which also applies to how we could look at this politically. So I, again, not wanting to get into that, but wanting to stress that we have a lot of opportunity with this sojourn of Venus, which is going to last a little bit because I'm thinking that it's going to be going retro in 180 days, and I'm trying to figure out what sign it'll even be in, because Venus can really be out of something in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So, you know, maybe that's why I said Aries, because maybe that is the next time that it retrogrades. Maybe that wasn't a flub. So there's no retrograde in the Libra, okay? Just to kind of throw that out there. Now, let's start with our usual. And oh yeah, this program does this as well. So one of the things that we're looking at is Venus is in the 12th house here. And that's a kind of an interesting place for Venus because, believe it or not, that's when it's literally the most compassionate and its highest level. So once again, we have an opportunity here, a huge opportunity, okay? I also liked that the South Node and the North Node are running on that horizon. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I like, especially with partners, because there's a lot of oppression in the United States because of their partners. And again, I don't think I need to go into a great deal of detail. I think that right now we're looking at a situation where, again, in my personal opinion, we might be being taken advantage of. And I'm not referring to Ukraine. Okay, so again, I don't like to continually be negative. I'm not a Debbie Downer or anything, but I do think that we are oppressed by what is going on in the Middle East because we have ourselves tied into a position with Israel that I don't think a lot of people in this country agree with. In other words, we're not all about going out there and killing like 40,000 innocent people because one guy got a bug up his butt. Okay, I mean, it's so sad that here we are in the 21st century and we don't know how to solve things without literally killing thousands, tens of thousands of innocent women and children and men, because I don't believe all the men are involved in this, okay? I don't think that if you're a Pakistani, you got a real horse in this game. I'm just saying. I just don't think there's a horse for you. So I want to talk about that. I think that other things that are obvious right here is the North Node is from the 6th. So it makes me wonder if some of our truer connections are the people we already work with, the house of service. Okay, so we have both there. We also have two different wars going on where we can look at one and say, wow, people are protesting. The other one, nobody's protesting. Nobody. Okay, the Hades at the midheaven with, because it is a midheaven and we can go out pretty far, you've got Kronos there. So with the moon. Okay, so what is it saying? Okay, we have some really corrupt leaders functioning right now. And I have to say, what is the moon doing there? Because this is, especially with the moon, it's like the moon is directly, the people, if you will, have been really thrown into this. And it makes me wonder again about what's going on in the Middle East. Okay. So, and then, moving on here, just again, looking only at what shows up on the chart so we don't get too crazy right away. We have here a Ceres nurturing food at the IC. But see, here's Hades to Ceres is bad food. Okay, so starting off, looking at everyone's own personal charts, you would want to see where that falls in your chart. It also makes me wonder about maybe a food issue within the United States. We definitely have an issue with food production. I heard a joke by people online who are not from the United States talking about trying to find certain foods, particularly in the southern states. I laughed because I'm in agreement with this. We have a lot of crappy food, and as a result, I am a canner, a freezer. We have a huge garden. I make sure that I have vegetables that will last me through the whole winter. Okay, not leaving a whole lot up to chance. I don't spray my food either. So there is this whole thing about food. So look out for that. It's on the IC in the midheaven, so it is something that's much more of the United States. If you're in California even, you might not have to worry about it. This is more of the East Coast. Okay? It will change a little bit. Not to say that 7 and 14 are not still in opposition, but not really. Not to a Uranian who uses 2.5 degrees for an orb. It's just too wide. The other things that I want to talk about just really quickly, and I will be getting ready by next year. Now, I know it's retrograde. Okay, you have no idea how much this stuff is really affecting me. I can speak from so many personal factors with what's going on right now, especially between Neptune, which is at the very end of Taurus, and is getting ready to go into the air sign of Gemini, whereas Neptune is getting ready. Do you see that? That's a sextile. And they're in aspect. And they're in aspect too because they are the Aries point. The Aries point, I'm sorry, they aren't, I have it totally screwed up. They aren't, this is not at the Aries point. Please, let's clarify that. This is. Okay, so because this is at the Aries point, and this Uranus is aspecting it, so I get way ahead of myself, we have, in many ways, for many of us, myself included, a Uranus-Neptune aspect. And Uranus and Neptune are dark night of the soul, okay, simply put. But Uranus and Neptune is also two very different energies. Uranus is impulsive. Uranus is about freedom. Uranus is about autonomy. Uranus is about, unpredictable. It's very unpredictable. And it's been in an earth sign. And so there's been, again, food, housings, things that are Taurus related. The Neptune in Pisces is really the end of an age. So we're kind of literally seeing as a result of the end of the age, okay, in a sense. And we already are through the ending of the age. We're beginning a new age already. But this is like another phase of it. And the, the deception, the lies, the misinformation. And this is not just this country, it's everywhere. But it's just off the charts. I mean, it's literally off the charts. And to have Uranus in there with it means it's like the most unpredictable. It's like somebody coming out with the most unrealistic comments. Oh yeah, that's right, that's happening too in public because it is a world energy. So with that stated, I want to move on. I'm just going to go through a couple of things. We already talked about the Chiron being in the Aries point, so I'm going to be able to kind of limp through this a little bit. I do want to point out that D rest is very close to that 15 degrees of fixed, which is the Aries point. And it talks about things stopping, halting, okay? Venus is there. So you have to, because again, it's the Aries point, you have to look, and Neptune, what is stopping? A lot of things are going to be put on hold. A lot of things will be, how do I put this? Delayed. And that's not Adamito's delays. That's like, so things can be halted, stopped. Okay? It's just interesting. Finiti is also there, but it's further away. But it's still in conjunction with Diarest. And it's not really, it's not really far enough away. It's within 10 minutes still. So look at what's ending right now. Interesting. Okay? Because when I did the last chart, I was talking about the ending of Biden's campaign and how it affected Kamala Harris in terms of her chart. Very interesting. So then, I'm going to bring it down here. And again, I'm only looking at the Aries point. Oh, scapegoats. One of the reasons things will end, or things could end, is because of that concept of scapegoats. All right? So the idea of scapegoats. Who's using scapegoats? Who's the scapegoat? Which I think is kind of interesting. It's pretty close to Letitia's, which is those interruptions. Remember, we talked about Diarest and Finiti, but this is also talking about interruptions and disruptions, Letitia's. Okay? It's also talking body image. I think body image comes up when politicians in particular start insulting each other. So we already know that's going on. But this could also be about our own body image, and we shouldn't be too negative on ourselves because there would be a tendency for that. The next one I want to look at is Orpheus. And I'm going to be honest with you, Orpheus is tears and crying and sadness and death. Okay? So somebody could be dying during the sojourn of Venus in Libra. Okay? Somebody that the world would know could be dying during this time. There's a lot of sadness. And again, it's the Aries point. It's the world. Okay? Very important to note that. But again, I see beginnings. Again, there's beginnings. Beginnings. It's like things are beginning, but then things are dying at the same time. We are really in a phenomenon right now, astrologically, a true phenomenon. We also have that things are going to appear like it to everybody else is going slow, very, very slow. This is a really slow time. Slow is moving with the sun, so days are even going to appear to be going slow. And you know, interestingly enough, because the sun is about 6 degrees of Virgo, and there's an asteroid that was running there, and I'm seeing it. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm looking at the wrong software. I was going to see if that was still hitting. We'll get there. But yes, the sun is there, and I get a real sense that one of the things we're going to be looking at is evil actions by other people. This is a weird one because this asteroid is one we use in crime for people who do awful things to other people, like disembody them or take their heads off. So there's some stuff that may come out related to that. I want to check something here. Okay, I looked it up. I was hoping it wouldn't be as bad as this, but I don't always have good luck that way. Okay, so we already talked about the asteroid. Ironically, it's Schmidt. I could use it for something different, but I want to talk about something else that's coming with that sun that really applies with Schmidt, and that is Jacobson. Okay, Jacobson, which is a newer asteroid that I'm working with, which is one of the reasons why I went and looked, because I realized what it was, and I was like, oh, wow, I better check before I do this. It's a con man. It's a cheat. It's somebody who cheats after they gain trust. Okay, and that's, again, probably going to show up. And I think that it is about somebody doing bad things. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody's out there dismembering somebody, but whatever it is, it's pretty bad. And it is a con man, and it is something that happened after somebody had gained trust. Okay? So the sun is filled with a lot of ugly. Okay? And realize that during the course of your days, that time to time, not always, you know, some people, that 11-degree Libra is a good place, you know? But these, and the 6-degree Virgo sun is not a bad place. But I'm going to tell you something about, well, let me wait and make sure that asteroid's there. I'm really feeling like that asteroid is somewhere around, but I got to wait and see if it shows up. Okay, as I continue with this, along with Venus comes lust. Be very careful, because you could be so excited about something that you wouldn't believe you're getting swood-higgled. And here we go with gaining trust and getting sliced and diced. Deception over Venus, money. You're all excited. Oh, yeah, we're all excited. And then boom, okay? Be careful. There's a lot of warnings in this particular chart. And I did sort of notice that. I just feel like people are being very sly. Also within orb. Okay, very sly, very sly. As a result, again, we have a lot of not happening. Things are not happening. Dearest, finiti, okay, Letitius. Now we have not. Okay, and one of the reasons why is because we have a such thing as willing victims. Because people are willing to get their heads chopped off, are willing to put up with whatever the deceptions are, doesn't work out. I mean, it's just, you could get swood-higgled. Truly, don't do it. Okay? Delphi is simply all of us listening to me as I spout the future, but also others, okay, that might be spouting the future. We also are looking at the fact that people will be a lot more territorial. Yeah, especially once they feel they've been taken advantage of. Chrome keeps showing up. So you have your authority figure right off of this. Oh, excuse me. I did not want to pop that back up. That's my charts. That you're this. Let me get that down. You have your Chronos up here with the Hades, but you also have Crone right down here. Okay? So, and it's retrograde, so it's like an authority figure not acting very authoritative-like. How about that one? And yeah, that does it for that. Now, while I'm at it, and just really briefly, I'll go through just the ascendant, the descendant, the horizon, and the meridian. Okay, and again, mostly for the East Coast. What I did so far was for the world. Okay, but just to kind of give us a little bit here, we're going to start off with that Libra at 11 degrees. And you still have things like sly. Somebody sly. Okay. But I also, and body image shows up again. People are taking the plunge. And in doing so, they're trying to actualize things, but ultimately be careful of the tears, because I definitely see tears. I definitely see that excitement, that lust. So I'm repeating the themes through that alignment. So it's even more accentuated. Some people will feel depressed. There's that Uranus, Neptune, okay, that I talked about. I think people are also just too easy, too susceptible, too, yeah, sure, try whatever. And that is going to be bad for them, for their money, and for partnerships in general. There's a lot of warnings in this chart. I really can't stress that enough. It really is a time when we can use our intuition, we can really be, we can become more credible, we can make over aspects of our lives, or ourselves, because the body image shows up so many times. And money, Rockefeller, but it's about wisdom with Rockefeller. It's about don't be tempted, use your wisdom. So it gives you the solutions as well. It is a time, and this is what I was looking for, Shiva, it's a time of deconstructing so that we can reconstruct. It's a time of, withdrawing for some people, but it's also just restructuring. With the descendant, we're dealing with people, and they're all retrograde. So as I start this, I do want to emphasize that. Veracities tells us that there's some major faulty perceptions here. These people believe a truth that will set them free that isn't going to work. Okay? It's about helping others, and we can do that in strange ways. Please listen to your gut, intuition all over again, so that you don't make a fool of yourself and you can avoid self-destruction actions of Delbruck. Stockholm and Blarney. Stockholm is people taking advantage of you, and Blarney is believing their lies. Pythe is because you think everything's going to turn out all right, but it doesn't. Okay? This is all about an education and turning points. So we're learning a lot, not always in a good way. As we go into there's a lot of chaos at the midheaven, and that we're seeing. I think we're seeing that already. And it is, there is a lot of people who are upset by things, and they're championing things. So there's a lot of tears for having a champion. Those could be seen as happier tears, because we have it. We have the aid that we need. We can find it, but we have to be careful of the lies that social media is putting out, that legacy media is putting out, okay? Like we think that if you listen to the TV, that's going to be real stuff. No, it ain't, okay? And I'm going to say it just like that, because I find that legacy news, the stuff you're watching on TV, doesn't give you news at all. How do I know that? Because I read my news, and I'm always telling people around me, oh, this is going on, that's going on. Sometimes we don't hear about that stuff for 3 days, even though I already knew about it. And other stories don't show up at all. So trust me, you're not getting anything. As we go on, and the other thing is that people generally want to be fair. They want to solve problems and take opportunities to be fair. They want to be fair. And the people do show up in aspect to the ascendant. Okay, they can watch as things seem to be getting worse. And this could be in your own life, just feeling like, I know things are supposed to be getting better, but they seem like they're getting worse. Well, first of all, let's start with the economy, okay? We have a capitalist society. I don't know how much people think the government can do. I can tell you right now, though, that the rich people would like to see the other guy get in, and they're not going to do anything to help us. And so, therefore, we have to start being realistic about what that means. Excuse me. Excuse me. Putting ads on television to tell us that the economy is bad is not a good strategy. We have capitalism. Who's going to tell somebody you can't get that kind of profit? Really? Good luck. I always have to say things like that. So as we move on, and I'm going to finish up this part, we're going to look at one of the things that you as a person could do is look at things in pieces. There's so much going on that the best way to direct our energy is into smaller increments. And it is referring to coin, which is money, and this is about money, kind of getting into the finer details because there is a problem with money. And this is just what I've been talking about. And especially money related to food. But what I'm going to tell you is that there's a Machiavellian concern here. This is Machiavellian. This is people playing games. Okay? We, unfortunately, are an oligarch system. Sure, we can call it democracy. And basically the government runs through democracy. But the rest of us is all related to oligarchs. These rich people who just want to get richer. Please know what's going on. This is why I always tell people, do your homework, people. Just do your homework. Enemy tells us that there are going to be blockages, and it's because of willing victims. And the thing that concerns me the most is that I do believe it's going to affect children, okay? Again, it's because of scam artists. Now I'm getting details on what some of these deceptions are. Scam artists, okay? And I got to be honest with you, it really is something that could affect children and money for children. And I think of states that won't give children food and things like that. And yet they'll give bailouts to big industry. They think that it's okay that they're making 300% profits in some companies and some oil companies, but I guess that's okay. We'll starve the children. Anyway, I get very upset with the social injustices. That's my chart coming through. So, but please bear in mind, as I talked about at the beginning of this, that yes, politically, we know what's going on in DC, it's pretty obvious, but I definitely want us to direct some of this energy into our own personal lives so that we can focus on trying to make our own lives better and developing our own intuition. Now, before I finish the video, because I can, I really want to go through some of the Uranian aspects of here, and here we go with this turning points. And I'm on the Aries point. So you see Venus, you see Neptune. By the way, Venus and Neptune is also a falling in love signature. You could fall really in love. The problem is that, are you really dealing with the true person, or are you in la la land? Because when you really, really fall in love, sometimes that love is blind concept begins to take over. So please be aware of that. Sun Chiron is turning points. I did mention that. It's also people who don't think they have to follow the rules. It's also days of alternative actions. Okay? Now, some of the stuff that we could do here is we could begin to create pictures, which is why I chose it. So for example, we want to look at, say, money within our family or our household, okay, and or households themselves. This actually comes off as marital happiness. Okay, let me do it again because I just screwed it up. Okay, so it could be marital happiness, peaceful society. I'm looking at DC, so I'm looking at what could be a peaceful society. Well, one of the things that's not far away, but it's pretty far, is Poseidon. Propaganda. What is keeping us from our happiness? For many of us, I'm going to be honest with you, it's disinformation. We're not getting true facts anymore. We haven't for a very long period of time. What this Jupiter, what this Venus can represent for us is, here we go, Sun, Pluto. We have to change things. This is all part of our transformation. In order for us to find our happiness, and I know that happiness is, I mean, love and fear are the two main reasons, and they fight against each other all the time. We're really here about unconditional love. But in that process, happiness is very important. And it is really important for us to go and seek our happiness. So it is an important thing to do. If I look at the sun, and again, this is world now. Okay, we're going back. There isn't a whole lot that comes up. Okay, I mean, just, you know, we've got our dots not far from Adam Eaton. Remember, I said there's going to be blockages, there's going to be problems with things happening. And the reason why I'm pointing to that is because there's a similar opening. And when you're doing symmetrical astrology, those openings become incredibly important. So I'm looking for those two, which, by the way, it is about facing new problems. It is about creating shape, creating form, and creating new beginnings. Okay? And in that particular chart, again, I'm trying to see, we've got Poseidon. Okay? We've got, just seeing if we got anything that's even cooler than Poseidon. We got the sun. Semi-squares the sun. There's our dot. Here we go. It works with Venus, which means it works with Neptune. So you see how that works, okay? That was just me coming from that sun, and now I'm able to find out that we really are striving for new beginnings. I wasn't just whistling Dixie. Now, what's really interesting is to look up here, just look at the moon. And now we see the south node. It's really hard to do things different. We've been led such a line of bull that trying to change our energy is going to take brute strength. And this is we the people. So now, just to kind of look at this, and I'm looking at it because I have an interpretation here. Look at that. It equals, hold on one moment. Let me just put you on, let me just come back to you. So I apologize for our minor interruptions. I do want to talk about, before I end though, this aspect right here that we're looking at. I was looking at it and then was rudely interrupted. So the moon is running with Kronos, okay? That can also be a female official, okay? And there we go. And the midpoint of that equals Cupido, okay? And so we're talking about maybe the work, females, the household, people who are very aware of what's going on in their work. It's industrious. It has a lot of, let me see something. I'm going to pull up something here just to take a moment, see if we can see what this says. And I know that my screen, because I use two screens, it gets a little bit crazy, and I know that my wheel is not on there as well as I would like it to be. Oh, and guess what? We can't seem to get into that program, so I guess we'll leave that out. But what we have here is we have a Kronos moon to Mars, okay? So that's the work, all right, especially of official. But how does it benefit families, and particularly mothers? Okay, so there's something going on here with the family and mothers, and particularly working mothers, that is very, very important in this chart. It's with Mercury, so whatever it is, we'll find out about it. It does refer to partners, okay, but also to being oppressed, which is kind of interesting, but more so in terms of partnerships, and fairness in partnerships. Not far from Pluto, but maybe, so Pluto's in there a little bit. It's all about transforming, maybe for all of us to look at these things a little bit differently. I'm going to just change up what planet I'm working with. Okay. So one of the things that I'm getting is that there could be stuff coming from the government regarding families and women, and having and being more independent, okay? It also is telling us that, particularly here in the United States, remember we are in a Washington chart, that we're really, really loving our female leader right now, and showing that she has great ability to be a leader, as well as being a woman. And, you know, she's a mother. Even though she's a stepmother, she's still a mother. So that's pretty interesting. And that's just based on the moon. So, you know, the moon is a part of that. The sun we didn't see a whole lot. Venus we did. Let's check the ascendant of the chart is where we really start seeing that dynamic energy of, there we go. Let me do that again. And that's the ascendant. There it is. Okay, so we have that energy that's going back and forth, the mothers, the working mothers. I'm going to be really honest with you. In this country, the campaign for the Republicans, their campaign, has been really demoralizing to women. And maybe that's what we're looking at, really, is this continuation of this trying to demoralize women, which is really interesting. And it brings in the Chiron to Neptune, where it's like sneaking changes. And the more women feel ridiculed, the more determination there is going to be to change the way things are. And I'm going to, at this point, I don't think there's anything else. I already talked about the node that would be really worth looking at. The midheaven didn't show much. We have Palace, you know, politics. There's a shocker. People who just say what you want to hear or what they think you want to hear. But I also feel that there's going to be some unpredictableness, some outrageousness, and all of that coming into the picture as well. And that suits with, if you notice that even though I worked at this chart in 3 different ways, I was able to reinforce the theme of what was spoken about initially. And that's usually how astrology works. So I'm going to leave it there. I apologize for the format. I know that it's really hard to see that Capricorn at the bottom, or the bottom of the charts, because I'm trying to use this software now, and just working with 2 monitors, stuff I haven't done before, and it's going to be a work in progress. So I apologize, but I do want to thank you for watching the video, and thank you to all of those people who continue to support this channel. Thank you all, and until we meet again, I wish you all only happy reading.